Oh no, now the knee. Well, that was it. Manu, what's he done there? He's sold the dummy with a knee injury. It's a fake knee injury. That is set up a try for Momirovski.
It's the next tackle. He gets an offload. He goes back and gets the football. Probably feels a cramp coming on in the back of his calf. And then just takes off.
Oh, what a beauty. So, you pick which has been the better moment. The bloke kicking the ball back from the traffic at the southern end, or Manu, the cramp, the fibber, and takes off to set up a try.
And put it in the chat.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gents, to another episode of the SuperCoach Tragic Podcast. Tonight going live on the Facebook, so first time for everything. Thanks to Sav giving us a bit of technical support. So speaking of Sav, mate, welcome on the Tragics Podcast. First time I think you've been on this one for NRL anyway.
It's the first time I've been on another podcast for a while, so thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure.
No, it's always good. We have to outsource our credibility somewhere else, so we try to find. So it's the best way we can actually get our credibility up there. In saying that, I'm not doing too bad this year. How are you going, mate? Are you doing all right this year?
I was doing all right up until last week, where I had probably my worst week ever in SuperCoach. I scored 1,041 when everyone seemed to score at least 1,300. So clawed my way back this week and got a high score than most people. Got 1,359 this week. I was pretty much hanging around the top 100 most of the year, and then fell down to 1,600th last week, and now I'm in 1,100. So top 1,000, I thought I had locked up a couple of weeks ago, and now it's the end goal for me at the moment.
I think I'm in a similar boat to you, mate. I reckon I wouldn't be far off your position right now. I'm at 11, 11, 11 at the moment. So,
Nice.
Yeah, sitting at 1,111 right now. So we're pretty very similar boat, I think. So, but I was the opposite. I had a really good week before and a pretty average one this week. So, but yeah, as always, we have Glen with us. Glen, mate, how'd you go last week, mate?
Yeah, I got 1,195. It wasn't a good week. I kept my points on the bench this week. It's a new strategy. I'm trying leave the points on the bench.
The ball strategy, Cotton.
Yeah, it's just not been my year, and when it's not your year, I just hope that I get all that bad juju out so I can get on a roll for next year.
Mate, you can start working on your NBL, see how you go with the NBL when it starts up. So looking forward to some more SuperCoach in the middle between NRL and BBLs. Yeah. So it used to be horse racing, but now it's NBL, so it might be more exciting. Fantastic. And myself, I got a 1274, so not as bad as I was letting on earlier. I managed to go up a little bit in the ranks there to 88 places. So, but I wasn't really focusing on my overall last week. I pretty much canned all my trade options because I made the finals in my head-to-head and I had a week off, so I wanted to make sure I focus heavily on saving my trades that I have. I've got to keep it hush-hush because I know there's a couple of guys that I'm versing in my head-to-heads that will be listening to this podcast. So I'll try to avoid spilling the beans too much on my moves. So I might throw a bit of shade somewhere and try and throw some distractions out there. Alrighty. So before we get started, as per usual, we want to discuss our overall group. And currently still up there, number one, we have Bring Back the Bears. So still going strong, Glenn there. He's still in 6th spot overall. But 110 points behind him is Edwin with Lux for Losers. So very, very close up there. 110 points with a few rounds to go. Anything can happen. And he gained about 3 points on him last week. So not enough, but definitely something you can, 110 points isn't really that much though. So
yeah, that's right.
Awesome. Before we get started, if anyone who has been living under a rock for a while, Sav, tell us a bit about your show, mate. Everyone knows about the experience. You guys are one of the OGs with started off as the Mike and Sav show and expanded into bigger and better things.
Yeah, it was the Mike and Sav show for a while, but then a lot of the time Mikey just couldn't. Mikey, the other half of the show, just couldn't. He wasn't coming on the show a lot. So, and I was finding that I was doing the show by myself a lot with other people, getting a lot of people on. So I really think that name change needed to happen just because it needed to be more of a community thing, not just a Mike and Sav's thing. So I wanted to have a crew on board and have people come in and out every week and the constant was always me and Mikey and just other people rolled in and out. And it was really good when Timmy, who you had on last week. He won. That really took us to another level, and it got us in the door at the Daily Telegraph. And it's going really well this year, and it's going better than it ever has this year. And you said at the start of the year my podcast will be going the way it's going now. I wouldn't have believed you, but it just means I have hunger for it to be a lot bigger next year.
Yeah, start your own little TV series, mate.
Something like that. Like I've got all these ideas for the off season and everything like that, but they never come to life. So hopefully, maybe this season will be the year.
Maybe do something like what they did with the Michael Jordan, The Last Dance, get a full film crew following you guys around and the story of. I'd tune in for that, mate. I would pay a subscription fee to watch that show. So. All good. All right, guys, let's get started. So, first game of the week. Let's go to you, Sav. Cowboys versus the Sharks, mate. Anyone in this game that you're particularly looking at to bring in?
With one trade left, I've got to be very particular with who I do bring in. But if I did have trades up my sleeve, I like Talakai this week. He's running at the side that the Cowboys have leaked most of their points throughout the season on that right side with Peter Hiku and Semi Valamate there now. Talakai, he's been underrated this year. He missed out on the points last week, so I feel like he's the guy who's going to score big this week.
Would you I've got at the moment I've got Mulatalo and I've played him last week very luckily, but I'm actually putting him on the bench and actually playing Garrick instead this week. But do you think Mulatalo is a play outside of Talakai?
I do like Garrick as a play this week, but I'm very confident in playing Mulatalo this week just because that Cowboys side is their leaky side for defense. A lot of people were scared off his knee injury. It did look quite bad, but I just feel with Braden Trindle in that side, like what Matt Moylan did to that side, he created the space for them and the tip on from Talakai. But I feel like Trindle's the kind of guy who wants to do that cutout pass to the wing. And it doesn't matter if Wade Graham's there. We wanted Teague Wilton there because he was the guy who'd run the line and create the space for the tip on. But with Trindle there, it doesn't really matter. I feel like it's good for Mulatalo, Trindle being there. And it's also bad for Nico Hines, if you haven't noticed.
Yeah,
I am really enjoying that. I'm one of the guys that went from Hines to Cleary, and now I've got the Cleary SJ run, and that was a big risk I took, but I think so far it's paying off. So, all right, Glenn, anything else you want to add about this game, mate?
No, I think Nakora's a play. If you've got Nakora and but I like Mulatalo and Talakai myself. I said Talakai last week. I actually sold Mulatalo after he's 9 and 12. I was done with him, and that's when he's decided to go well. So that's again how my season's rolling. I think I'm doing people a favour. If you have anyone else you need me to sell, let me know.
Yeah, it's a good idea actually. I'll get a list sent to you this afternoon, mate. I think. So, but yeah, because I am going to put Garrick on the field, and I got Mulatalo on the bench at the moment. But I'm thinking potentially this is the reason why I asked is I've got Madison. And I got the reserve on him, and I'm tempted to go Mulatalo over Madison and have Madison and not play him. So that was the reason why I asked that. I think there's this a sneaky little option there I could use. I've also got players like Tupou who are all fringe players that you could potentially play on matchup. So I don't know.
Yeah, I've said Smith out the last 2 weeks, and I kept telling my son I believe Smith's the play. The ball's going more left to Smith than it is to Manu, and it's frustrating because I'm this week trying to figure out who I leave out myself. I think most sides are sit starting, thinking about sit starts. But we'll get to one later on that I think could be an interesting one. And when we get to that, I'll talk about it.
All right, we'll move on to game number 2. So game 1 Friday night, Warriors versus Manly over in New Zealand, I believe. Never heard of Daniel Anderson Stadium, but I'm assuming that's over in New Zealand. So this could be good for a few.
Go Media Stadium, but I think it's Go Media Stadium, but they've renamed it just because they're doing the fundraiser for Daniel Anderson or something.
Oh, that's awesome! I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
that's
good.
Fantastic. Anyone? You're right. I like to be corrected. That's how it's the only way I'll learn. So Warriors, a few outside backs here that have points of interest here. Anyone that you'd be looking at here, Seth?
I've got CNK, very happy as an owner that he's back. DWZ, obviously. But I think Luke Metcalf is smoky from this back line. You can talk about the people everyone's talking about, but Luke Metcalf is the guy who, with a good run, I think if you're loading up on Warriors players, he's one you got to take into consideration. I don't know if he does have the ceiling, though. Like, he scored 2 tries and 2 try assists against Parramatta a couple of weeks ago and only scored 100. So I don't know if it's worth taking the punt over a guy like Nico Hines.
Well, I think with Metcalf, I think he's very similar to like a Luai, where he has that potential to get that high score, but if he doesn't get his way, or if they block him in defense, you're not going to get that big score out of him. So, but he's definitely that guy that like Luai in my draft team has been killing it for me on and off. He had a horrible start, but then he's been actually winning a few head-to-heads for me. So, anything else there, Glenn?
Well, just on that. The difference between Metcalf and Luai is that Sean Johnson takes a lot more ball, whereas with Cleary, he stands left of the ruck and plays short to Luai. So Luai gets a lot more of that than what Metcalf does. At the beginning of the year, I spoke a lot about Metcalf, and then he went down injured. I was really keen to see how he played out the season. He's an incredible young player, and the Warriors bought well. Yeah, look, Weslyak, have you say DWZ? I think he's an interesting player if you want to bring someone in from that back line. Charles Nickel-Clockstad, someone I'm actually considering bringing in myself this week for Cody Walker. I'm done with Cody Walker. I'm tempted to sell him, move Ponga up and bring in either him, Meaney, or Teddy. There's a few that I'm looking at. Yeah, I like Clockstad and I like Welesniak. As I keep saying to people, I believe you don't go near forwards now. That's no ceiling there. You know, I believe we go for spine players and back players. They're the ones that have got the ceilings on the run home.
Yeah, I like that. One thing as well, this is the part that I have a dilemma with, but I think I like the idea of VCing SJ in this game, but I really want to do something with my captaincy with Cleary. You know, that really kind of puts, I think Cleary looks pretty good this week. So, but I do also like AFB a lot. I'm already got AFB. I think he's going to be a really good run because one thing about Manly is their forwards, bigger bodies, they tend to get a bit tired quickly, and AFB runs those lines in the middle and gets those tries. So I think there could be another meat pie again for AFB. We think the draft's going to run out, but I'm not sure.
And it's his old club.
Yeah.
They're always up for a meat pie against our old club.
Maybe I'll VC him.
Yeah.
I still got feelings on AFB.
Mm.
I told him to get AFB about 9 weeks ago, and he went on a try running scoring run, and I ended up buying Tarpany, and he went AFB, and it's just AFB's just gone, and Tarpany's just
a funny story. I actually needed the week Stefano was on his first bye. He was popular at the start of the season, and I was getting rid of Stefano, and I was looking at someone like Braden Hamlin-Uele, Jared Hargraves, just someone at that price who can get me through to the buys. And I was looking at AFB. He was a bit more expensive. I had to spend a bit more money on him, and I got him in, and it was so random because no one else was getting him in. I think he was so lowly owned. He was 544,000, and he scored in the first 4 minutes against the Cowboys that week. And everyone was just messaging me saying, "You're kissed on the dick." Like it was such a nice moment. And that was the week that he's gone on a tear since. So I got very lucky with that one, but it's got to go your way sometimes, eh?
Yeah, that's the thing. When you had a few options there with some cheaper players, you risk that you spend a little bit of money on a bit of a higher risk, and it's paid off. And sometimes that high risk versus high reward. I think I got in the week after that, so I didn't get that one there. But still, I saw the potential in that game. You saw something before that game with your crystal ball, which is great.
Well, I didn't really, but with him, he was the only one out of the guys I was looking at who had the upside. I knew he had the upside, but the thing that impressed me about him was he stayed on the field every game prior to that. And it was like round 8 or round 9 already. So the fact that he stayed on the field, he'd always been riddled by injuries. I was just like, okay, if he just keeps this up, like he's just going to get better from here. And he did.
Yeah. Well, his PPM's 1.001 or something, and he's playing 72 minutes. So I mean, you're guaranteed 72 points just there, and anything he gets on top of that, you're doing well. So he's the one forward that you could consider if you wanted to buy forward. I noticed Haas is one of the most sold this week, as well as Walsh. I think Haas is the most sold this week. So maybe that's what people are doing. I'm not sure. But I just want to quickly talk to Gary. So I've had a lot of people messaging me. Do I sit? Do I play Gary? Gary got 62 the week before last without doing anything, with just in pure base. And then last week again, I played him. Everyone sat him. It was one of the things I got right last week. His base is actually really good, Gary. So it's up to you, depending on your back line. But I've got to sit a back out this week, and I'm Garrick or the one I'm looking at's coming up, and I'll talk about him more. But I just wanted to say that his base is actually really good, Garrick. And he plays up the middle. I still think there's an opportunity where he could score in this game.
Oh, he scored against the Panthers last week, and like I was one of the ones that rested him. I rested him over Mulatalo, so I got the better end of that deal in the end.
Yeah.
But it could have been nice to play him over Tupou, which I never considered. But yeah, no, I'm liking Garrick a lot this week. I think his base, he's got the high ceiling when he's on the wing. But when he's playing fullback, he has that solid base, and he got that kicking as well.
Yeah.
So I think Garrick's a definite play this week.
Also very scared not to own him in the last 2 weeks. I'm considering selling Cody Walker next week for Garrick for them last two matchups, because they're very good. Tigers and Bulldogs in the last two.
Yeah, there's been a few players that I've had in my team for a while that I should have traded ages ago, but I'm looking for head to head, and I'm thinking Garrick was one of them with his finals. I got some good games up there, and the other one I've had for a while, and I've been ready to sell because he hasn't been performing, was Meaney. But Meaney, I've been keeping him. We've got the Dragons this week, and then next week he's got the Titans. So I think it's juicy. But a bit scared about having Puppy in the back there, but I'm really hoping that Meaney goes to the wing, because going off history, there was a time, I think it was last year, where Meaney was playing on the wing and then he'd play fullback because Puppy was in and out the whole time, but he averaged like 1 point higher on the wing, so it's about the same. So to me, I think it's probably safe for him being fullback, obviously, but the on the edge of the Storm backline, there's tries there. So
yeah, I think the only downside with him going to the wing will be Pappy comes into the side and he loses the goal kicking. Yeah. I think that's probably the worst part about it, because he's not really getting many line break tries, so he'll get much more of them. He's not really getting many tries, but I held him this long as well for these exact three matchups: Canberra, the Raiders, and the Titans, and it's paid off already, hasn't it?
Yeah, you got a decent score last week for me. That was nice. Alrighty, let's not move on to game 2 Friday night. Parramatta Eels versus the Roosters. Anyone here? I think there's pretty good big names in here. I think the Roosters might surprise a few people this week. Sav?
Teddy all day. He's my VC this week. I bought him for Gutho straight after the bye period and downgraded him for today. Downgraded Gutho for Teddy and was able to get him Munster for a cheapie. And he's gone good without going great. He got the 134 the first week I got him. But then, yeah, it was a good watch, wasn't it? It was a real good watch. I think this is the week where we see that other big ton from him. He's been close and he's looked good, but I think this is the week he's really going to bust out against a weak Parramatta side.
Yeah, I think I'm a bit nervous because I got Dylan Brown. I ended up getting him as a pod a couple of weeks ago, and I'm actually kind of liking Moses not being in the side for Dylan Brown. Mm-hmm. But I just also don't know how much I trust Parramatta without Moses as well, which is a bit of a scary thought. So yeah, anything else here, Glenn?
Yeah, there's a couple of things I wanted to mention in this game. So I wouldn't be touching anyone from Parramatta as much as I like Dylan Brown, because they've got to buy in the last round. If you're an overall player, that's really not conducive unless you've got a lot of trades. But I really like Smith as a play if you own him, Billy Smith. The ball's going left a lot, and agree with you. I like Tedesco. I'm actually trying to toss up this week whether I buy Tedesco, whether I buy Meaney, or whether I buy Klokstad. And I really like Meaney because he goal kicks, but geez, I love Tedesco too, and it would give me a VC. But yeah, I like. There was one. That's what I was going to say to you. So if you've got a few trades and you're looking to trade down to trade up, Wong at the second row. He's got really good base. So if you need someone that you want a playing player that you can trade down to have money to go up to someone, Wong's your man.
Yeah. Can't go Wong there.
Can't go Wong. Yeah,
can't go Wong.
Awesome. Out of those trades you just said, then Glenn, I think I like the Teddy one better.
Same.
I personally, I've got Latrell this week, and I'm only head to head purely. I'm doing all right overall, but I'm focusing on head to head. So next week I'm going Trell straight to Teddy. So I don't want to sell Trell just now because I want him to have this game. But I think Trell to Teddy next week for the finals, the grand final. In saying that, I got to be in the final to really worry about it. But hoping to be there. So I like the Teddy trade. I think Teddy tends to come good. And even though as an overall player, the very last game, it's always South versus the Rabbitohs in that last game. And how good is that game to watch every single year? They both turn up. Like you're going to get Latrell is probably going to turn up just out of spite because that's what he does. And then you've got Teddy that'll just go nuts as well. I think it's going to be a great game, that last game there.
It's funny, that last game is always so high scoring as well. Like you expect it to be a grind, but somehow Supercoach wise, it's always high scoring. Like I just remember every time someone talks about that matchup and I'm listening to the podcast, it just reminds me that year Cody Walker got 200, Cameron Murray got 150, and they put on 60 against the Roosters. That it just reminds me of that matchup.
I'm selling Cody Walker this week, so 150 is probably likely.
It's funny you mentioned that. I try to bring it up as much as I possibly can, but that game was the reason I came 15th overall.
Really?
I had Cody Walker in my as a pod. I think the only one else that I knew that had him was obviously the winner. Can't remember his name. To apologise. And Joe, yeah, and Timmy Williams, who also had him, and we all thought Timmy, there's no way he's going to lose from second place now. And then I went from 48th to 15th overall in that one game.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I had him as well. So I was very happy. But I was riding Tim home as well, and didn't get there, but it was a good year for him.
I was literally like, so I was driving along the road with my job, and I was waiting for it. Lockout took forever after that week, and I was like, all I did was wait for it to refresh, and it wasn't for my score. It was to see if Timmy won it. So I was like, one of our podcaster boys has to win it for us. So
yeah, we actually were in a chat with him, and he told us a little bit beforehand that that he got the call from Tommy Sangster saying he didn't win it. So that was I felt bad for him. But Joe, the winner, the one that year, he's a really nice guy. So someone's going to win it every year, and they're all like everyone that plays Supercoach and takes it seriously. They're all pretty good blokes.
Yeah,
that's right. It's very rare you see anyone out there that you just don't like. So, and we're all honest on the Tragics podcast. So if I didn't like someone, I'd tell them. So.
Yeah, I'd have to look back into the archives. I'm pretty sure I like most of the winners. I remember when Matt won last year, I was like, he seems a bit of an outcast from the past winners, but he came on our podcast and he's the nicest guy. Like, I think you can't hate someone who loves Supercoach.
Oh, of course. That's it. All right, let's move on to game 1 Saturday. Tigers versus the Dolphins. Thinking the Tigers, with the Dolphins out, I reckon the Tigers might get up here. You reckon, Sav?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think anyone in this game, besides maybe, I don't know how to pick in this game, really. There's not many options in this game to pick at.
Saturday, 3 o'clock is usually my favorite time slot to watch. And, this Saturday is not going to be exciting for me. But Stafford Toa, I like as a pod running at. They've got pretty weak centers in there in Jack Bostock and George Jennings. And I think Stafford Toa is just that guy with a bit of upside. I think Dane Laurie as well.
Yeah,
Dane Laurie looked really good last week, so it made me feel like the Panthers bought good. I wasn't happy with that purchase until last week. He was busting through a lot of gaps. Very good. One player that I've actually got in this game is I've got Nikorima. I think he might do all right as well in this game, so I'll be playing him. I've had Nikorima on my team for a while as my backup hooker because the hooker position's been up and down all year. So, but I don't know what better position to have as a fullback in your hooker spot. So, not been the worst decision, but I think he goes all right in this game. Anyone else, Glenn?
So some interesting stats for those that bet. The Tigers leak to right second row, and they leak to the right wing where Isako is. So people are asking me, is it a sit start? But the side looks weak this week, the side that I'm looking at, the Dolphins, but I still think it's strong enough to do what they do. And ironically, the points that are coming in against the Dolphins is also on the right side to the right second rower, which is where Bateman is. So a lot of people own Bateman, so I'd be playing Bateman and I'd be playing Isako in this game. I think that Bateman's base alone is worth him playing, and I think Isako in this game will score well enough. So
yeah, I like that. A lot of ceiling players that can turn up on occasion, but so there could be some big scores. There could be a lot of very, very low scores too. So
yeah.
All right, move on to the next game. Clear captain choice of mine: Gold Coast versus Penrith. Sav, anyone in this game that you're thinking might go all right?
Yeah, Cleary, obviously. I got Dylan Edwards in my side, which I'm very excited to own for this matchup. I think the Titans with Tommy Weaver in there and Jaden Campbell in the defensive line, they're just going to pick that apart. I like the villain, Jerome Luai, as a potential pod. Yeah, I think you can choose a lot of people. Even Peachy this week, probably consider him. The left side of the Sharks teared that side up last week with Mulatalo, so I don't see the ball going out as far past Peachy as it did Mulatalo last week. So, yeah, they're the guys I like there.
Yeah, well, that's one of the players that I'll be resting this week, and that's Taruva, because Peachy's not going to give him the ball. So, did all right last week, and I left him on the bench as well. So, but I think Taruva has potential to get a high score if Peachy was on the other side. But that's all I can say. So, Glenn, anything else, mate?
So you took what I was going to talk about. I was going to say, so I have Taruva, and I'm trying to figure out who to leave out between Damien Cook and Taruva. And I agree with you that left-hand side's where the points will come. But the ball just doesn't get past Peachy. He just doesn't let it go. And on the other side, Critter's just the same. He doesn't like letting it go either. At least Toho comes back through the middle. But Taruva did last week come through the middle a few times and scored well doing it. I played Taruva last week. It was another one I got right last week. I just didn't name Mulatalo. But I'm actually considering leaving Damien Cook out this week, and I'm selling Walker. I'm just done with the Rabbitohs. I'm over the Rabbits and playing Taruva. But yeah, as for buys, no, not really. I mean, if you wanted a pod, I think Sorensen on that side could be an interesting pod.
Yeah, he's been slowly ticking away, getting some decent scores there, Sorrow, with the rig.
Yeah, but I like the backs better. I mean, you could pick any one of those backs, mate, and not be unhappy. Ian Edwards, Peachy, Crichton, Toho, and Luai.
Yeah, so the word out of camp with Targo there is his foot still isn't quite right. They may get him back just before the finals, but they're not going to rush him. They don't need to. We're winning games. They don't need him. So it's just his foot isn't right. So that's what I'm hearing out of camp there. This kind of moves on to the next game here, the Dragons versus the Storm. So you mentioned Cook earlier. I've got Cook as well in my team, and I'm thinking about one of my trades this week is Cook to Grant. I'm concerned about the Munster news we're just hearing about. Any thoughts here, Seth?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's kind of like SJ the other week where we're on watch for like 2 weeks to see if he's going to be in or out. I think there's a small chance Munster will be out, but I think there's a good chance he will play. It's just under the extreme circumstance that his wife's in labor during this time, and it's like 1 day after or 1 day before. So I think there's not much to worry about there. I think what you got to do, though, is just plan out your reserves in case he is out. Like for mine, I'm potentially leaving out Corey Horsburgh this week, but if Munster doesn't play, I can put the reserve on Corey Horsburgh. But there's not many other options for me to choose from after that game because it's quite late in the week. So a lot of people will be in positions where they're kind of not in a good position to do so. So maybe just play someone you weren't planning on playing and reassess for the Sunday.
It could be something as simple like what you said there. It could be something as simple as if you're playing 5 centre wings this week and a lot of people have Marzu, for example, put him on the bench potentially, and then that way you have him as an option later on there. So, but no, I don't actually have Munster, but I was more concerned if Munster does get ruled out, is a Grant trade ideal? Do you think Grant plays better without Munster, or?
it's probably better for him, I would say.
Yeah, I like that good because I think Cook has been in my team for a while and not really impressing me too much. So I think Grant and Nicarima might be my run home. So, any other thoughts there, Glenn?
Yeah, Ali Katoa. I think I'm not a fan of buying second rowers and front rowers, as you know, this time of year. But I mean, I actually sold Eli Katoa in my draft last week in my final. Can you believe that? And the person I played picked him up. I've had him since round one, and I sold him because he was named on the bench again and he was playing little minutes. And I thought, I'm not going through this again. And I needed to get someone in, and I didn't want to sell anyone else. And then he actually messaged me. Kane messaged me, just thanks, mate, for Katoa. But yeah, I think if you're looking for a pod and you've got a few trades, I think Katoa could be a really good pickup if you're in a head-to-head.
I think we've made comments in the past about buying forwards at this time isn't ideal, but second row I don't think is an issue. Second row there is that ceiling available still for second row. So like I know we've mentioned a few times, but David Fafita is a second rower that you definitely purchase at this time. I probably wouldn't be picking him at the moment because his matchups aren't as easy, but having that second rower that can score tries and run holes, that's not the worst thing. It's more the front rowers that have a ceiling of about 100 maximum that I wouldn't be picking up this time of year. Alrighty. So no one's thinking of grabbing any Dragons players this week. We didn't touch the Dragons at all. So, I just didn't want any Dragons fans getting upset that we didn't touch on them. So,
Is there anyone though? Like genuinely?
Genuinely, Lomax is probably the closest one.
They're playing okay. Like they're holding in there considering their roster.
Yeah, that's right. Like Bent Hunt, I had him in one of my drafts, and he gets a try, and I'm like, oh sweet, he must be doing all right. And then look at his score; he's on like 19. I'm like, all right.
You know who is scoring well? Daniel Russell, the second rower. He's another one. If you're looking to go down to go up, Daniel Russell's your man. He's actually basing incredibly well for a player under 300k.
Yeah, and the other thing about Daniel Russell as well is he's playing in the second row, and he is a centre wing available.
Yeah, that's right. You can get him at the centre wing. That's right.
All righty. Let's move on to game one Sunday. We've got Newcastle Knights and we've got the Rabbitohs. The battle of the two fullbacks that I've got on my team at the moment. How do you see this one? I reckon Newcastle, if they play the same as they did last week and so does South, Newcastle win this game.
Yeah.
I just don't think South have been in the right frame of mind. And I think Newcastle have been on fire and just quite, 7 games in a row now, I believe it is. So
yeah, and they're playing, I reckon they're the most exciting side to watch at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
It all depends on Jackson Hastings, though, this game. If he is ruled out, I would be hesitant to put captaincy or anything on like a Ponga or something. But, I'd tip Newcastle in this one too.
Mm. Yeah, I think I got a live bet going at the moment it was one of those ones where you try and turn over your punters club money, and it was to have Rabbitohs make top 8, and I'm getting very nervous now, so I have to go for the Rabbitohs. But I think I'm really cheering in my head. I'll be cheering the Knights on. I've always had a soft spot for the Knights. So, anything else, Glenn?
Yeah, I like Isaiah Tass for the Bunnies, but they've got to buy next week, so I don't know if I'll be buying into them based on that. And, I mean, if you don't own Marzu and you can get him or Best, I don't hate that either. I think both of them are, and Gagai, sorry. Gagai's base has just been phenomenal, like I'm actually considering going Gagai or over Tedesco and moving down Katoa.
Yeah, Gagai is doing very good. I've been watching a bit more lately. There's been a lot more talk of him being SuperCoach relevant, and I've been watching a bit more lately because of that. And he has been doing a lot of sideways running and getting those tackle busts and having a crack. He's winding about the clock a little bit there. In my team as well, this is one player that I've got who I'm not 100% sure in this game because they've got pretty good second rowers at Newcastle. I've got Koala Matangi in my team. This is a nerve one because I think the second rowers here, Frizzell and Fitzgibbon, not the worst defenders. And I think there might be a bit of a challenge for Koala Matangi to get through that line. Thoughts there?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, Kalama Tungi, he's been making a lot of errors, but he's still bases very well and he gets a lot of ball. They do play to him a lot. So I'd be playing him and Campbell Graham. If you own Bunnies, play him. I mean, look, I'm selling Coda Walker and I'm benching Cook, but I still would play my backs in the second rower. I think that, especially that left side with Diatas and Johnson, and the right side, I don't hate Kalamatungi. I'd actually play him, mate.
I'm only saying that because I got to try and think of about 12 different options to make my trades, just so I can have options there if something goes awry in my head-to-head. And I was tempted to go because if I make the final next week, I won't have Kalamatungi to play, so I'm tempted to go Kalamatungi out and bring in Munster through Jules, which I thought may have been a nice little option there, and that way I can then go have enough money to also go Cook to Grant as well. That was just one of my options I thought there. So. And that way it frees up.
By the way, England are leading 2-1.
Oh, no. Oh, we got one goal. That's pretty good. I'll take that. Awesome. We can get anything. Girls can go all right, which is great. Okie dokie. Let's have a look at the next game or the final game of the week. And that's Raiders versus the Bulldogs. I don't know what it is. I always want to get backs against the Bulldogs. But then I look at the Raiders and I think, no, thank you. Your thoughts, Yusuf?
Yeah, I feel like there's a few games that I'd be happy to miss this week, and this is one of them. I do have Tarpanay and I do have Horsburgh, who I probably will play. So, I don't know about this one. I think the backs against the rate. I like Matt Burton this week as a potential option. I got Mitch Moses in my side, and I've been really looking at Matt Burton in as my last trade, just because the Bulldogs, they do have a couple of good matchups, and I'm not sure who they got next week. I'll just clarify what it is.
Got Manly next week, mate. So not the worst game.
Not the worst game. And he's a goal kicker, and I really feel like the Bulldogs are always that annoying side at the end of the year. They haven't showed it this year, but every year they kind of come good when it's too late. And I think because the competition's been so close this year, the pressure has been on, and I think now mathematically they're no chance. I think they're just going to ease the shackles.
Yeah. We all saw what can happen with a team that is desperate. With the Penrith Manly game last week, I am a Panthers fan through and through, but I was almost brokenhearted for Manly because Manly owned that first half. And the only reason that they didn't come back in the second half was I believe that they should have been up a lot more points. And I will be the one to say there was two crucial errors from the referee that I believe. That were definite errors. And they outplayed Penrith. DCE owned Cleary, and I was the first to admit that. And then they end up being 12 all half time. You go in there, you're pretty disheartened when you come in after the lunch break, after the halftime break. And then Penrith came out and destroyed them. So I think they were desperate teams can do some magic, and that's why I think Bulldogs, they've got nothing to lose. So there could be some really good ceiling players, and I think we've got TPJ in there as well. He's retiring at the end of the season. He's gonna have some fun. He's gonna just go out there and have some fun. He's got nothing to worry about anymore. So he's gonna go run through gaps for Burton. It's gonna be good to watch. I reckon that game.
Offloading at will.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Maybe I'll grab him as a sneaky pot to run home. That'd be the equivalent of getting Billy Kicks. I reckon.
True.
Timmy gave him a shout out last week thinking Billy Kicks for the run home, so we all know.
He could be the guy now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, not bad at all. Anyone else, Glenn, here in this game at all that you'd be interested in? I think.
No, I've been talking up Avarillo and Carraz. They haven't got under 60 pretty much since their play, but Avarillo fell off a cliff last week with 17. And Viliami Kikau, I mean, is an interesting one versus the Raiders, who tend to lead in halves. But yeah, not really. I mean, Jordan Rapana, he could be an interesting one. Mm-hmm. But no, I really wouldn't be touching anything from either of these sides. I just wanted to say quickly on the Tigers game, I thought Tigers were the better side last week too. And two forward passes that allowed the Raiders to score those two tries really was frustrating because for mine, they were the better side. And the referee, ruined that game. And I agree with you. The Panthers-Manly game, they should have went in at least 12-6. There was some errors in that. But it seems to go to the bigger sides, doesn't it? The
refs have sucked this year. Even that Cody Walker try. Yeah. The Cody Walker try on Saturday. Everyone was off.
Try.
Oh.
Yeah, everyone, especially Latrell.
Yeah. Honestly, I needed that to be a try. I know I was like, and I'm like biased. I had a lot of I had a lot of points out of that, but I'm like, oh, they're gonna pull this back. This is a clear offside. It was obvious.
Yeah.
So
As soon as I seen it, I yelled out F because I thought, oh, I own Cody Walker and I own Latrell. And then I thought, there's no way this is a try. I come back in, I saw try confirmed, and I'm, what have I missed? Like,
and they gave 2 try assists for that one player as well. FYI,
Did they?
yeah, Latrell got one for the
yeah,
pass, and Illy's got for the kick. Yeah,
yeah.
so 24 points worth of try assists in that one. Honestly, I don't always know how they play that, but that pass from Latrell, as offside as he was, deserved a try assist. That was a ripper.
To be fair, they have done that all season, so I don't hate that. I don't hate that. One thing while we're talking about it, though, I've pitched this idea to a lot of people. What are your thoughts on the try assists and how they're paying it, Glenn? I know you're quite interested in this. I honestly think the try assist for the sweeping fullback, right? They always get the try assist and the line break assist.
Yeah.
I think if the sweeping fullback creates the try, they get the try assist, but the center who passes it should get the line break assist.
Yeah, I agree. I've been saying that, and that's more black and white, mate. The problem with it is too subjective at the moment. I agree with you 100%. And you know what? Interestingly, my son and I had a little bit of an argument over the one where Tass got the line break, the Troll got the line break assist, try assist to Tass, and then Tass offloads it to Alex Johnson, then back in again and scores that try. And because it went to the sweeping fullback. But I agree with you, and I still have feelings over Croker. You probably know who I'm talking about. 2 years ago when he got those 2 line breaks, ran halfway across the field and then put the try in, and he got nothing for it. I agree with you.
This year. That was earlier this year.
Was it this year, was it? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's like they need to get those. I feel like they should get it, or give both the line break if they're going to play it that way. They can give out 2 try assists. Why not 2 line break assists?
No, I don't think they need to give 2 line break assists because say the person creates a space, they get the try assist, and the center who taps it gets the line break assist. It's a team effort play, and the points are spread. Whereas, like a Latrell long cutout ball that goes to the winger, like that ball he did on the weekend, like he deserves more points than someone gets for creating the space for another player to set it up for that. So I think that would be a less subjective system, and like if they're not going to cop it and do that, then bring it back to the way it was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pass.
Yeah, and I'm not really sure like that. I mean, the 2 rules that we've always had in SuperCoach is the kicker always gets the try assist, and the other one was that if a person makes it, like say if someone passed the ball through, the person that gets the line break gets the try assist. So it used to be like the person passing through gets the line break assist, and that person that runs through the gap, they get the try assist that's passed on. So how is it any different than the sweeping fullback creating that, putting them through? You know what I mean? And then them not getting the line break assist. They have to get something for it for what they've done. I agree with you, Sap. I do.
Yeah, I think like a lot of these people, they all he did was catch and pass, but some of those catch and passes are bloody hard to do. Like
for sure.
If it was easy to do, then there wouldn't be about 1,000 forward passes thrown every single time they try to do it when they tap it on. I'm trying to remember. There was one I saw on the weekend. I can't remember who it was, but it was like he didn't even look where he was. He was looking. He was about to get smashed, so he didn't care. He just grabbed it, passed it, and he didn't even look, and it went straight through it. I was like, well, that deserves more than what he got. He got 4 points.
Was that Talakai?
I think so. Yeah, like it was just a beautiful. Yeah, in saying that, if someone runs into him, he's a big unit. It's probably not going to hurt as much as it would hurt me. But the fact that I just think that it's just there's so much skill involved in that. It definitely deserves something, and I think that's a good call.
You know, years ago, Sav, they had a thing where, I don't know if you got it, but I got an email about 4 years ago. My son did as well. It was the years that we were doing really well. We had about 3 years in a row of being, up there. And we both got an email to meet down in Sydney to discuss the rules of SuperCoach. And we both decided we were going to go, but then we ended up not going. And to this day, I'm so frustrated that we didn't, because at that point, we both were so versed on what we wanted to see. And I really feel that it'd be good if someone like Sangster was to get a whole lot of us in and around a table and actually sit down and have this conversation, and each of us put forward our ideas. And between all of us, I think we could come up with something that's not so subjective.
Yeah.
Agree.
I like it. I like it a lot. Alrighty, before we move on to questions, let's go through around, and if we have any trades left, what trades are we doing? I'll start with you, Sab, if you want to share.
I'm not doing any this week that I plan of. I think I might say I've got one trade left, so I'll probably save it for next week. I really want to do Mitch Moses to DCE, which is what I would have done this week, but I'm 17k short. So I need DCE to get like 30 for him to drop enough for me to afford it. Fingers crossed the Warriors turn up at home, which I have no doubt they do, but DC is just a different beast and he can perform anywhere. So as much as I love DC, I just want him to fall off a cliff this week. But yeah, I'm not doing anything this week. I'm pretty happy with my side, pretty happy with my depth, and I think that trade will come in handy. Even though I've got Preston, who's gone, Hopgood, who I potentially want to bench. Moses is gone, but I've still got a bit of depth there, and I just want to make sure that the trade is going to be used appropriately.
Yeah, no, fair call. Glenn, mate, any trades if you were doing any?
Well, I have one trade left myself, and my plan was to wait till next week and sell Cody Walker on the buy, when they've got the buy, and I was going to go to Munster, Tedesco, one of those players. But I'm tempted to do it this week because I've got Grant Cook, 3 front rowers. I'm stacked. The only place that it could mess me up is if I move Ponga up to 5'8". If he was to get injured, that's the only place that I would have trouble because I'd have to play that Katoa. I've still got him as one of my only pain in the backside. So I don't know. What do you reckon? Should I go Walker this week or just play Walker and just hold on Tedesco?
I don't think Walker would be the worst play this week. So I think I think you could play him this week. He could go bad, he could go good, but he's not the worst play. So if you're scared about depth later on, then I'd probably hold personally.
Yeah, well, I mean, all I'm thinking to myself is I'd hate for Tedesco to go big this week and then do that trade anyway next week. Like that's where my head's sort of at. If that sort of makes sense. And look, I'm not like going to win SuperCoach. I'm having a bad year anyway, so I thought to myself, I wanted to jump on someone with a bit of ceiling, and Gagai was the other one that I took a look at. So yeah, possibly I could be trading Walker out this week or not, or I'll hold. That's pretty much it.
Are you in leagues that you really want to win? Obviously, every league you're in, you want to win, but
I don't really pay attention to head-to-heads, but I am in a few. I've actually made quite a few finals in them, but the only one that really is the banter one. I'm not in the Podmasters. I've dropped out of the few, the buns that if I was in Podmasters or in the Tragics one, I'd want to win just because I want to beat. I don't like anyone in there. I want to beat all of you. No, it's a bit more self-esteem, isn't it? A bit more esteem if we beat our big players, but I haven't made it in those ones, so yeah, not really. No.
Yeah.
It's been a bad year for me, Sab. It really has. Like, I mean, I'm 10k. I've never been 10k.
I think you're better off doing the trade next week because, I mean, it doesn't matter. But if something happens next week, I don't know, because Cody Walker's going to be out next week, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah,
that's the way I see it. Like, I mean, he's either and it's going to be the same thing anyway. But look, I might just wait. You never know what could happen, and we'll see. I'll plan it next week. It's I have had 1 year before that's been bad. By the way, I had a 20k 1 year, but I've pretty much been a top 1,000 player for most years, or a top 100, and it's so frustrating this year. It's just not worked for me. But we can't win them all, man. You've got to have some years that you don't do good.
Yeah, that's usually me, mate, but not this year. So I've still got 3 trades left. I've been pretty much holding them whenever I need to. So my head-to-head plan was always to not trade at the start and just kind of verse my head-to-head in a reactive way to see how we're going. And then if I don't need to trade, I don't need to trade. So that's why I've still got the 3, which is really good. I'm just looking in the comment section here, noticing the guy that I'm versing in the head-to-head final is stalking me a little bit. So I've got to be very careful with my words right now. So,
who is it?
It's Paul. Yeah, Paul. He's just made very clear that he's on there.
They were all messaging me last year. Don't tell him. I literally had different people out of our chat messaging me saying, "Don't tell the other one." And it was so funny for head-to-heads. And I was like, I don't want to get involved in this, guys, but I did.
Oh, mate, the paranoia that I have I could have someone that's always been on my side the whole time, and I won't tell them anything because I think they're going to tell my because we're all friends. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't tell anyone my trades. I'm just like, I'm going to do this. I'm like, then I'll tell a couple of guys, two different things to see who's the one leaking the. Get real paranoid in our head to head. This is we've been going for about 10 years, just head to head, so it's very full on.
You've
So,
had a good year, mate. You've done well. You really
well,
have.
I'm in 9 leagues and 8 head to head finals. So
Nice.
there's quite a few there, a couple of cashies there. But I'm looking at bringing in players that potentially would match my head to head. So I know my head to head has Harry Grant, he has Munster, and I think my ceiling players that are low ownership pods, I believe, can combat his ones. So I think that I might look at holding off as long as I can, and then bringing in the Munsters to kind of combat his low ownership players. So but I got players like, for example, Dylan Brown, who I think is going to get a decent score again this week. I think there's some players that I got I think Mulatalo, who I don't believe Paul has as well. So, but I think right now he's listening. He's probably got a pen and paper writing everything down. But yeah, I've got about 12 moves I want to make, and at the moment I'm thinking about. There was one move I was thinking about actually going nothing out Damien Cook, which is a weird one, and then turning my Schuster into Munster to have Dylan Brown and Munster for the run home. But 3 trades left. That leaves me with 1 trade left, and I'm only getting the 1 gun out of it, so it's a bit nerve-wracking there. So, but I think I like, because I've got 23 active players that I could probably play on matchup, so I could afford to knock 1 more out. So
I was just thinking the other one I could go is Munster. I mean, because I'll know if Munster's playing because Cook plays after him. Walker plays after him. So that's one other way that I could look.
Yeah, I'm liking Munster a lot this week. That's why he's one of the guys I'm scared of not owning. So
yeah.
All right, let's have a look at captain, vice captain. We'll start with you, Sav. Any thoughts to you, mate? What are you looking at?
BC Teddy, I think Captain Cleary. He got his record-breaking 225 against the Titans in the past at that same stadium. So I am very keen on the Captain Cleary.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that's the one thing that I haven't changed all week is my captain, but I'm moving around my vice captain a fair bit. So, Glenn, vice captain, that.
So I don't, unless I buy Tedesco. Oh, shit, what have I done? Unless I play buy Tedesco, I don't have a lot offering before the Panthers game. So I'm actually thinking about vice captaining Brit Nakora, just for something a bit different, and then captaining Cleary. Or the other one I could go is Manu versus the Eels. I don't hate that either. Manu or Billy Smith, maybe Manu versus the Eels.
Yeah, that's the guy I've currently got as my vice captain at the moment with Manu. But after a little bit of talking, I'm liking the idea of AFB as well. But that's mainly because AFB, it's really rare he's going to get 125 plus. So it's like if he gets to like 100, then I'm like, you know what, I'm not looping. So I think the loop, especially when you have someone like Schuster in your team, you don't know what he's going to pull out. But if he does do some moving around the second row potentially, then he might be a safer play. So, yeah.
Mate, I'll just get the questions up for when you get ready.
Yeah, mate, we're ready to go whenever you are, mate. So get some questions going.
We've only got the one tonight, guys. We usually have a few, unless people want to ask in the chat there if there's any questions. But the one we do have is from Bradley Baxter. He says, I have Marzu, Alex Johnson, Mulatalo, and Isako, guys, and I need to leave 2 of them out this week. We'll come to you, Susie, I guess. Who would you leave out of Marzu, AG, Mulatalo, and Isako?
AJ, Marzu, Mulatalo, and Isako. I'd probably leave out Isako this week just because they've got so much depth out of their side. Like, is the ball going to get out to him? The Tigers have actually not been super bad. So, I'd leave out Isako.
Yeah, Tigers defend SuperCoach points actually really well. Believe it or not. So they're actually a good side for defending SuperCoach points. I agree with you. I think he had to leave 2 out. I would leave out Alex Johnson and Isako personally and play Mulatalo and Marzu. But, mate, I would find a way to play all 3 and leave out Isako maybe and even leave out somewhere else. Look somewhere else. You must have somewhere else where you can leave someone out. You know, it's hard to make an answer to those questions when we don't know what else you've got on the field that you could be leaving out.
Yeah, like for example, I'm in a similar boat where I mentioned before, I've got Madison, who I'm happy to potentially not play this week, and play Mulatalo as my fifth centre wing.
So can I answer that? So Hopgood's been named at second row. I've got a feeling that Madison will come on at second row, and Madison will move. Hopgood will move to front row, or that Hopgood could drop to lock, Hoffengauer back to the bench, and Cartwright. Madison move into second row. So I would expect a late change in that game. So just keep an eye on that game before you make any decisions on what you do there, mate.
I've actually made a decision in my head anyway. So I've got Tupou. What I can do is I can play Mulatalo, put Tupou there, and then they play the same game. So I'll be able to know exactly where Matto's going to be and then make my decision then.
Yeah, well, they looked terrible last week. I mean, Hopgood and Madison both scored terribly. But it's an anomaly with Madison, especially if he comes through the middle. And he bases 61 coming off the bench. And Hopgood, I don't like Hopgood, though, at second row. I just don't. You know, his gold is his base. You know, the million tackles he makes. And I haven't seen him play second row, so I don't know if he's going to drift in like Madison does when he's at second row.
Honestly, I after watching Hopgood play in the Panthers junior leagues and stuff, I think he's just you can't keep him away. He wants to be part of it, so he will come in and defend. He will come in those angled runs in. So I think he still goes all right. And I think he gets it might even work better for him, where he might even have some more try scoring opportunities. So.
Well, and to be fair though, just so that I can make something aware that the Roosters are playing left a lot, which is Billy Smith's side, which will go to Cartwright's side. So I don't, Hopgood needs to come in to get points in that game, or get attacking stats. I'm saying in defence, but I agree with you. He's one of them players that likes to get involved, so I do see him drifting in the middle. But I expect late changes in that game. I don't believe Hoffengauer will play lock. I believe Madison either will or Hopgood will, and Madison will move to second row. That's just my belief.
I do believe it. I do believe that side, by the way. I think Brad Arthur's been very good at developing players and making them play their best footy, but tactically he's just not very good.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. That's actually right. He's good at developing. He's not so good at his game tactics, and yeah, I agree.
You can see what he's been planning. He's been doing it for the last 2 years now with Arthur. He's been getting good second rowers, and then getting them kind of dual skilled so they can play more in the middle, so they can be more versatile players. He did it with Lane. He's been doing it with Matto, who was normally an edge player as well. He's just been getting these players that play on the edges and do good jobs, and then making them more versatile to put in the middle. But does that really make your team better? Like, it makes your team more versatile when injury strikes, I guess, but does it really make your team better? Because I don't know if it does.
I think the Eagles have been a very unlucky side, Dan. When I look at that side on paper, I mean, arguably probably the third best spine in the comp with Moses, Brown, Gutherson, and then, a pretty ordinary hooker. I mean, the fact that they bought Hodgson, to me, just beggars belief. But the other three, there's a fairly good spine behind Melbourne and Penrith. But and they play a very forward game like the Raiders. They're a very forward dominant kind of side. But where they've really struggled this year is in their backs. They haven't been able to get any consistency out of them back players. There's a lot of errors coming out of the Wacker Blakes and the Russells and the different players that they've had outside those front rowers. And that's made them vulnerable on their edges in defence. So they're leaking points back down both of those edges, which is a problem for them. They really need to invest in some better defending backs, from my perspective anyway.
Yep, agree. All right, guys, that pretty much wraps everything up. Is there anything else we want to talk about before we finish up? All sorted.
No,
I want to say
lost 3-1.
Yeah, we lost. Yeah, I just saw that. Yeah, Matildas.
Oh, sorry if you're holding out for watching the game back.
I've got it on my phone, looking at it right now. So if I'm distracted, because I'm watching the soccer as well. So.
Well, look, congratulations to Australia for making it. It's the first time we've ever made it to a final. So for all those that are soccer fans out there, this is the real game that we enjoy. NRL, I find soccer boring, so that should get some tails wagging, some mouths clapping.
Yeah, I didn't watch a single World Cup game. Yeah, I feel like if you're a casual fan and you're watching it, and you're not watching it outside of the World Cup, then don't go crazy. Like, watch it, but don't go crazy for it. Like, you don't need to watch it if you don't want to.
Yeah, well, I watched it just because it's
Massive
Australia.
Massive
Yeah,
effort from them, though.
It is. Thanks, Sav, for coming on. That's what I wanted to say at the end of this. Like, we appreciate you, mate. Like, it's been good to have you on. We've been trying to get you for a while, and you've been pretty tied up. And then even tonight was a bit touch and go with your few people ill and stuff.
Yep. My house is riddled with COVID. My daughter's not very well, and yeah, it's always tough to even do my own podcast sometimes. But I like to come on as many podcasts as I can.
Yeah,
so
good.
cheers for having me.
Yeah, no, you're welcome, mate.
All right, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Tune in next week, and I hope everyone sees some green arrows this week. Peace out.
No, everyone.